And to talk about this in more detail, we can now cross live to Willi Wimmer, former Vice President of the OSCE's Parliamentary Assembly. Thanks so much, Mr. Wimmer, for joining us here on RT International. So speaking about the relations with Europe, Russia's president in his Q&A said that he wants a strong but independent partner. So do you think Brussels is not a totally then reliable partner at the moment? And if so, what needs to happen to make it so?
I think I saw the press conference here in Germany, and my impression was totally different to the remarks I just heard in the commentary. Yes, there are strong indications that both presidents talk about their military arsenal. Yes, that's absolutely right. And we have the modernization of American nuclear forces in Europe since years. So we are used to it. We never forget that one nuclear submarine really can destroy the whole globe, and therefore I think we are totally realistic. But the signal of this press conference was very civilian. It was for 4 hours, and I would appreciate to have such a press conference in Berlin with tough journalists asking tough questions and a chancellor being polite and perhaps able to survive 4 hours of press conference. But it was very civilian. The president talked about the internal situation. Yes, he touched upon foreign affairs issues, but all related to better relations to others. And it was not the Russian Federation which disturbed the relations to the rest of the world. It was the NATO aggression between Afghanistan and Mali, and we did what we could to keep the Russians out of the common house of Europe. And therefore, if this changes because of Trump, I think it was the most important press conference since decades.
But what about the future of the relations between Russia and the EU? What's your feelings about that?
I think the Russians, we have to understand this, they are our neighbors. And I think we have to treat our neighbors in a fair way, and we wanted to be treated also in a fair way. And this was disturbed since 2 or 3 years because of the events in the Ukraine, not organized by the Russian Federation, but organized by the Nuland brigades from the United States. And therefore, if this now, because of a different American president, becomes normal again, I think we all will love it.
Well, it was a long Q&A, a 4-hour one, where Putin touched on a lot of issues concerning foreign policy and domestic policy. He also touched upon the situation in Syria, speaking about the humanitarian operation in Aleppo, specifically calling it the biggest in modern history. Tens of thousands of people have been led to safety with Russian help. However, some people in the West continue to regard Russia as an enemy over its actions in the city. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, because they pursue their own agenda, and we saw it since years. Everything started with the illegal war against the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia in 1999. And since then, we are all engaged in NATO-led wars and operations to destroy all our neighbors on the southern border between Afghanistan and Mali. And what happened? The Russian Federation stepped in accordance to international law on the side of a legitimate government with the help of Iran, and they stopped this path of war being organized by Washington and Brussels. And therefore I think we now feel, everybody feels some relief, because the liberation of Aleppo might stop the Syrian war. And why can it be stopped? Because Moscow stepped in and prevented the war path led by the Americans to conquer the rest of our neighborhood. And therefore I think it's the most important event since years what happened in Aleppo. And it stops the development being organized in 98 and 99.
Well, Mr. Wimmer, right now we see a lot of changes in the world, and with Europe facing its challenges and new president in the United States and the forecast that media make. How do you see things developing in Europe with the Trump being American president?
We expect that very soon, because Trump seems to be very energetic, very soon the relations between Washington and Moscow will be better. Negotiations, better understanding, good relationship, the lift of sanctions. This will happen, I think, very soon. And therefore, I think Europe is in a very critical situation because our governments still stick to the Obama policy of confrontation against the Russian Federation. So we are in a difficult situation, and we already feel it. There is a growing understanding between Washington and Moscow and what's going on in Paris, Brussels and Berlin, the old rhetoric. And we seem to be in Berlin the last pocket of resistance on the side of the Obama administration, on the side of the Democrats and Republicans, the war establishment in Washington. And that's over. And Europe would be in a much better situation to feel it, not too late, that world has changed. We have to be present when it comes to our own national interests, and that is a signal being made by Moscow since years. They want to be good neighbors, but they want to have their own decision on their own development, and that's the same with us.
All right, Mr. Wimmer, thanks so much for talking to us. Let's keep fingers crossed for some positive developments there. That was Willi Wimmer, former Vice President of the OSCE's Parliamentary Assembly.